Hey everybody, Radioactive here for another video. Today I'm going to be showing you how to completely assemble your Radson XL. And at the very end I'm going to show you how to disassemble it for standard maintenance. First of all, let's get all these printed parts out of the way to show you the hardware that you would potentially, at that time of recording, there is no actual kit. However, I am working on making that a reality. Let's move these out of the way. I just set this up for the thumbnail. So in your kit, potentially, this is not finalized, but it's pretty close. You will receive a foot-long section of this cord. I don't quite remember what exactly what size it is. It's fairly standard. It's probably 5/16. I feel like that's what Captain Slug typically worked with. A foot-long section of this. This is your trigger spring, essentially. A 96 millimeter long section. Oh, it's a weird number. Trust me, I know. A 96 millimeter long section of 2.25 inch, so 2 1/4, or 2 inches and 1/4 outer diameter polycarbonate plunger tube with an inner diameter of 2 inches or 2 1/8 inches. Still, I believe, the largest plunger tube in production in the hobby, or for a production blaster in the hobby. You have 3 O-rings. I believe these are, I don't remember the exact size, but they are the nominal 2 1/8 inch outer diameter. And I believe they are not the smallest size, but they're the size up, so they'd be a 100 series O-ring. You have 2 of these standard nylon standoffs. I believe they are 3/4 of an inch long and a 1/4 inch wide. You have a 2.5 millimeter diameter. These are both 2.5 millimeter diameter. This one, I believe, is 25 millimeters long, and this one is 20. And then you have all of your screws. Now, let me see. It's on here. These are 440 by 3/8 hex head. Now, this is just the hardware I decided to go with. You could potentially, and heck, I have some here. Interesting, they have CS on them. I thought that was funny. Captain Slug. Phillips head. Also have those, but I really, really prefer the look of these hex head. They just look so much better to me. And the only thing that you will need for assembly, hopefully, is a 1/16 inch Allen wrench, Allen key, hex head, whatever. You may need a 2.5 millimeter drill bit and a 1/4 inch drill bit. You may need those. And I'll tell you where you may need those at. So, let's get to the assembly. Let me get comfortable here. Quickly drink, have a big sip here so that I can talk for potentially 30 minutes to an hour here. Alright, so, now that we're all ready.
Actually, I'm not gonna. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna go over the printed parts now.
This is what I call the main frame. This is obviously the main frame. It's what you build off of. These I call the trigger frame, because they go on either side of the trigger, which, there's the trigger. Here's the hammer, and the hammer frame. The con rod, connector rod. The plunger head, obviously. These are the grip, these are what I call them anyway. The grip greebles, radioactive grip greebles, also known as grip medallions, and the grip greeble connector right here. This is, sometimes I refer to it as the spring base, the spring guide, the spring frame, the yoke. That's just the couple of the different names. I think it's originally called the yoke by Captain Slug. This is the top frame, because it goes on the top of the blaster. And this is a barrel. Specifically the 6x3 half-dart inline shotgun barrel. And, almost forgot you, the grip. So, now we've gone through everything. Now, we have the main frame. So, the reason why you may need these drill bits is because, let's see if I can, nope, I did it the wrong way. You may need to, of course, drill out the holes. So you would just quickly go through it, clear out any potential issues, and that will get you perfect. Now, I think the reason why it gets you perfect is because these are Imperial, and so are a tiny bit bigger. I think they're a tiny bit bigger than, might actually be a tiny bit smaller, but they're about the right size for, I don't know what I'm doing here. My hands are just doing their own thing, apparently. That's why you may need those. You may need them to drill out the holes. This one, of course, would fit into this hole. It also fits in any of these big holes you see. They're going to be sized perfectly for this drill bit, and any of the small ones are going to be sized for that drill bit. Now, of course, with any blaster, depending on your print tolerances, you may need to fix up a couple of things. This hole is a pivot, so it needs to be a little bit larger. So if you take one of these, you're going to want it so that it freely moves on it, because it does pivot on it. Now, you can use that, where did I put you? I just had you. There it is. You can use this. You're going to have to wiggle it around a little bit, make sure not to screw it up. Like this isn't really helping much. You can also put one of these pieces into your drill bit, and it acts like a reamer. It'll get you really close. So we have the frame. I take this side first. Let's get our parts. Ooh. The way I like to do it is, I'll put that in sideways. I like to actually put this one in first. Now these are the exact way that I put it together. So like the method, I guess. I like to put the screws in to these frames first, just a little bit. Just a little bit, so they're not sticking out this side, at least for these two on the first grip, the first hammer, no, first trigger frame, Jesus. The first trigger frame, I like to put this one in all the way, the rest barely, so that I can just take it, line it up, and turn it until it lines up, and then you just screw that down. Now, this blaster, or these parts, may seem a little rough. This is a personal blaster, so the parts that look a little bit rough, I keep. I can do whatever with them. And you know how some designers are. Their stuff is always the jankiest. Take this back, put this one, make sure it lines up. Yep. And screw it down. Now, be careful, because this is screwing into plastic. I haven't actually stripped out any of these in production. I do have a prototype one that stripped out a hammer, but I closed in those holes a little bit. It worked out. It works a little bit better now. Alright, so this side is now on. We are now going to take the 25 millimeter rod. Let me make sure we're still recording here, because this thing has screwed up on me in the past. Yes, we're still recording. Cool. It's above me. I'm sorry if you're shaking, but it's above me, so I can't really go up and check. Press that in. I'll use this piece to. All right. And it is fully captured. Press your trigger on, and then you're going to take your elastic, feed it through this bottom hole. There is a hole right here as well that it needs to thread up into. Those can be pretty tiresome to work through, but looks like it's worked well. Okay. Tie it off here. This is real easy. Just a loop and through. Pull it tight. And then, where did I put my, there it is. So I guess I lied. You are going to need some scissors. If you do this right, there should be enough for you to try it twice in case you mess the first one up. This useless. Toss it. The way I do this is I take. I take some pliers, press it onto the base, pull this up without clamping on, and then clamp on. We're then going to make the same loop, get it pretty tight, and then get pretty close. Not all the way down, but about so, and then pull it, and that should be perfect. Cut off your excess, or pull it out a little bit, so to make sure that you are cutting off the right amount, and that should be enough for if you did this incorrectly, or somehow it breaks. I haven't had any of these break. I guess it might be able to, but this could be used for a second blaster or as a second spring if you so need it. Toss that. Now we have the rest of this. Now you see that you can't really remove the elastic without just cutting it. So now that we have the trigger, the elastic running through the trigger to the bottom of the frame, we're going to undo this screw, this rear screw. I know you're thinking, what the hell? Why are you doing that? I would do it so much better. That's awful. You're stupid. Why are you? Why? Take your grip, go in through that way, and then slide it on. Take your grip greeble. Now you should be able to kind of see through it if you have light. Make sure that this bowl, the fully rounded side, goes to the rear, so it's straight up and down. So if you look at it this way, the symbol is correct. This way, so it would go to this side. Press it in, line it up how you would like. I typically try and go so it's vertical with the grip itself, not vertical like that. Press it through. Now your hammer's not going to go anywhere, but you have this side to worry about. Line up the square. All right. So I've lined the square so it's straight up and down, but if I turn it around, I would show you that it is not the correct way. So do it again, look through, line it up, there we go. Press, hold the other side, press it on, maybe need to twist a little bit, and then there you go. That will never go anywhere unless you want it to. And now that it's on, you can press, you can screw this little screw back in. Awesome. You know what? I don't think I ever made or cut down the spring. We're gonna have to make a cut here soon. So now that that side's done, we're gonna take our hammer and one of our nylon standoffs, press it in. You can put some lube on this if you would like. I don't typically. Press into the hole right there, and then we're gonna take our other side, our other frame. Make sure it all lines up, press it all down, and then take 3 screws. And we're gonna screw it down. Oop. That happens way too often, that the thing just pings out of my own hand. Okay. Sometimes you can check to see if there's light between this and the frame to make sure it's been tightened down appropriately. Sorry if you can hear a hum in the background. That would be the air conditioner. It is fall, finally, but it is still hot here in the deep south. This last one will go in just so it's not sticking through. All right. At this point, I like to choose a side to go first. Again, this is just the way I do it. We will not be putting on the other side until it is almost completely put together. It'll be our second to last thing or third to last thing that we screw down completely. But this just makes it easy. There's nothing else in the way, potentially. And this will also help us with our assembly later on. Make sure I'm getting this in frame here. Make sure it's tight, but not too tight. Again, it's just into plastic. Now we'll take our yoke or spring frame or spring base, whichever one I ended up calling it in the file set. Press it into here. Be careful not to break this off. So you're going to want to go kind of at an angle. There we go. And then we already have our screws started in this side of the frame. Ooh. So now, screw it down. You'll be able to kind of check that there's no gap if you look at it through this way. Alright. It's not going anywhere. Then we will take our top frame, set it into this section, try and line it up. You should be able to see light if you look at it through this way. Start a screw on this side. Now, you see how buff these ears are, and if I don't change it, then the file set is actually going to be called Buff Yoke and the Buff Top Frame, because I actually buffed this part up previously, and it's kept splitting right here if I screwed it down too tight. This is really, that modification was just to help it not break itself. Now, if you notice, that just went down because the torque of screwing it in will actually cause it. The way I like to do it, as soon as I feel just a little bit of resistance to this movement, I don't tighten it anymore. There we go. There's some resistance. It's not going to go anywhere. You really do not want to tighten it down too much. It will split, especially if you're using weaker materials on the layer adhesion or like silk. I have used metallics in the past, and if you do it right, it will not break. You'll be perfectly fine. At least initially. There's no telling what will happen over time as the material gets old, but at that point, just reprint it. If age is what's causing the problem, just make it new again. Alright, so you now have the basis of a blaster here. The only things that are left are these parts. These parts. So now at this point, take your O-rings. These all should be the same size. There is a thinner O-ring that I sometimes use. There's only really a 1 FPS difference, so really On my own personal blasters, I'd put it on. I've tested in the past. It may be something I relook in the future. The high power kit may include a smaller O-ring, but these are the same size. I like to stretch this one a little bit. Again, preference. Press that on. So, go back to this for the yoke. If you have a high power system or a high power kit, this yoke is going to be different. It's going to be a larger diameter down here, and there will be a piece of, I believe I don't actually know what the size of this is. It's probably an inch, maybe an 1.25 inches outer diameter, maybe inch inner diameter. That will fit into it, and you'll glue that in. It's the spring guide, like an actual guide. Take your small pin, your 20 millimeter long pin, start it in, and then press. It's going to be difficult. Find something to help you press this in all the way. I use whatever happens to be lying nearby. Make sure it's able to freely articulate. Alright, so you're almost there. We are now going to take our lube. I like slug slime. It's like a silicone oil type of deal. Lube one side of your plunger tube. Try and work it into this O-ring. If you've gotten it close enough to the edge, it should be pretty easy. And then try and press it all at the same time, which may be impossible. I will try and put a taper on this plunger tube just to make this a little bit easier on myself, and I guess by extension you. That's not working for this one. It's an older O-ring. I've used it before in a personal blaster, as well as this barrel. There we go. And now the second one should be easy. Alright, there you go. That's together. Take it again, lube this side, put down a little bead all the way around. Put it over there. So this is the correct way up. This side should be up. This is to allow the spring to have enough room. Now do it again. Make sure you get some of that lube on the right side. All right, so now take it. Try and put your hand over the edge to really push that lube in. It's very difficult to do. Alright. You can even pull it out a little bit. Really work the lube in. Do it a couple times. Really just work the lube in. Alright. We're now at the point that I'm going to have to come back once I have the spring that I forgot to make for this video. So, be right back. Now that we have the spring finished, I can tell you a little bit about it. It is a short cut length of K25. 6 coils long, which I believe comes out to 2 inches and 3/4, or 2 3/4 inches, with the ends ground flat, or ground to a point. All the springs you get from me will come like this, whether that be in potential kits, hardware kits, or the blasters, completed blasters themselves, unless you get potentially a custom configuration. Now, I can go a little bit smaller, get less pre-compression. I believe certain 788 springs will work. Or, if you have a high-power custom configuration, you'd get this plunger head, this much longer con rod, and a spring approximately twice the length, with no ground ends. This is because this spring is the maximum length that will fit in the given area. It gets the highest performance. You can go down to 2.5 inches or 5.5 coils or 5 3/4 coils if you don't want to do this, but you won't get as high performance. Now, let's put this together. Line this up so this side is over the top of that, in that way. Press it on and slide it on. You may need to get your hands in there to move it. Slide it on. You can see that your spring has kind of popped out there. Take a screwdriver and try and force it back in. This may take a couple of tries. All right. There we go. Now the blaster is pressed together. Take your hammer and your last nylon standoff and try, and there we go. That one was an easy one. Press it together. Take the other side of your hammer frame, press it in. Take your 2 screws that go into this section, and let's screw them down. Oh, that's tight. That's a tight one. Check. Okay, it's pretty good. And then take the front back off. Look down in here. I don't really have a flashlight, but you may be able to see it down in there. If not, feel it out. There is a little stop, a tiny little stop that the spring is supposed to sit against. So you may need to rotate the spring until it's sat there and isn't twisted, coiling in a weird way. This, if it twists by itself, will cause a problem. You may need to open up this blaster again eventually, retwist the spring back into position, and you'll be good. I haven't had any problems with that, except for one where somebody did find theirs twisted out of the box. All right, now we will take 4 screws. You'll have 4 left over because I'm a nice person. 2 to 4. I had meant to give you 4, but apparently I've given you, or I've meant to give you 2, but apparently I've given you 4. Again, it's not entirely fleshed out. Put your... Now you can put your barrel on, if that wasn't obvious from watching. There are 4 screws to hold this barrel on. 1 or 2 on the bottom. And 2 on the top. Now, there's a part of me that hopes that when I put this together, there is a problem so that we can troubleshoot it together. There's another part that says, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. You just want it to, you want it to be perfect, to show off your craftsmanship, but perfection is something that is rarely the case, that something comes out perfect the first try. Even if you've had tons of experience putting this particular blaster together, like I do, there's some occasions where it's not quite perfect. All right. We have a blaster. Moment of truth. All right. That's about as good as you can get it. Now, onto the maintenance portion. So you may need to open this part up for one reason or another. Perhaps your trigger is messed up for some reason. It's not catching, which if it's not catching, you can usually file this bit off a little bit, get you a little bit more pullback, or potentially you need to ground the spring just a little bit more, because even now it's a little bit. If this wasn't my blaster, I would take this apart, file down that spring some more. But it's my blaster, so it works. I'm happy with it. If you need to get into this part for any reason, you can just undo these screws. Here, I'll show you. Oh, yeah, that's something you gotta be careful of. Probably the most annoying part of a teardown. Sometimes the end of your Allen key can go into that, and it's a pain in the ass. That's what it is. Now, I wouldn't recommend taking both sides of this off at the same time. One should suffice. The other's kind of keeping this on. I don't know what would happen if you decided to take both sides of the frame off without taking the spring out. Both sides of the trigger frame, but don't want to find out here. Alright, so now you're in. Taking this handle off can be a little bit of a pain. Where did my screwdriver go? Or my flathead? Here we go. I would recommend taking a screwdriver, trying to open it up through the back a little bit. Just be careful, you don't want to break anything. And as you can see, this has popped up a little bit, this medallion right here. Then you should be able to get in, pop it off, press it through the other side, and off you go. Now you can change out anything in this area that you need to without having to go through the trouble of taking the barrel off. Let's put this all back on. Now, the reason why you take this and slide it through here, kind of open it up, is because it pushes the medallion out. Just a little bit so you can get your screwdriver underneath it without tearing up the medallion itself. There you go. Almost toolless. All right, press it all back together. And then screw it all back down. I need to get a better Allen key. So I kind of, this entire time, I've made almost 40 of these things by now. This entire time, I have actually been putting these together with a 1.5 millimeter metric Allen key. When the screws are imperial 1/1/16, so that's what they would take. And like 1.5875 or 785 or something like that. So I've actually been stripping out a ton of screws. Because the Allen key I'm using is almost 1/10 of a millimeter too short or too small a diameter. So yeah, I'm gonna actually fix that after, because I checked to make sure, so I could tell you what tool you needed, but apparently I didn't know. So if you need to get into the plunger tube, it's a very simple procedure. Once you know how to assemble it, you kind of know how to disassemble it for maintenance. You can't really put in lube from the back here because the plunger head doesn't go that far back. There are some blasters that have that as a feature, that you can just lube through the back. Which, for some other situations, lube in the back would be preferable, but not really the case for this blaster. Open it up, undo the 4 screws with your 1 Allen key. Now this would also be how you change out the barrels, potentially. If you were to have more than 1 barrel, which I have sold more than 1 barrel for 1 blaster previously. Okay, it's all apart. Pull it out. And now you have the plunger tube, the plunger head. You can do everything from here. Take off the plunger tube, put on a new one if something's cracked, if you've dropped it and it just broke, or put on a new barrel. Or there's some people who have wanted to disassemble it to paint. And now I definitely would not recommend that, because they're wanting to paint, if you're wanting to paint the barrel, that could potentially be a problem. This is a very large piece of orange plastic, and you know, the hobby likes orange barrels, and it's a very, very large orange barrel. You won't have to worry about anything being a problem. Potentially. There are some color combinations that I've found that are like, I know the blaster's about 40% orange with this big ass orange barrel on it, but I'm still a little unhappy. And I really hope everything's been in frame. This is going to be about probably around an hour of me doing all this. Oh, that's another problem. Alright. You have a blaster. Now, let's take... our half darts. Now, this particular barrel is obviously 6x3 half dart inline shotgun. 1, 2, 3. I can't actually see these barrels, so press that in. 1, 2, 3. I'm doing this from feel, which this shape helps you do. I'm missing a dart. I feel like. Press these all in. Second dart, third dart. I am 100% missing a dart. I guess that one will work. All right. It is fully loaded. That last one is always so loud for some reason. And that would be all 18. Well, this has been the maintenance, the assembly and maintenance for the Radson XL. You should have about 4, we'll say 4 screws left over. And about a 6-inch section of this, and that's about it. I'm Radioactive. This is the Radson XL. Really like this color scheme. This is the Elite Blue, orange, white, space gray. Again, I'll tell you one more time because maybe you didn't hear me the first time. I'm Radioactive. This is the Radson XL. Hope you like, subscribe, comment. Let me know how much you're looking forward to potentially a hardware kit, file set. Tell me, what barrel is your favorite? I'm really curious to know that. I believe that's it. I don't think there's anything else. For the third time, I'm Radioactive, and I hope you have a great day.